perform the division. So over here, I said you're taking the top expression, you divide it by the bottom expression. And you take each term, you divide it by that denominator. In other words, they say you gotta break it down as 9x to the fourth over negative 9x to the fourth plus negative 6x to the third over negative 9x to the fourth plus 11 over negative 9x to the fourth. So the first one here, it's the same on top and bottom except that negative sign, so it's gonna yield to just -1. They'll cancel out, right? So plus, now the second one here, have negative and negative, which will turn into positive. And then 6 and 3, we can simplify by 3. 6 divided by 3 we yield to 2. 9 divided by 3 we yield to 3. So we expect the bottom number to keep 2, the bottom will keep 3. The top is 2, the bottom is 3. And then we have x to the third on top and x to the fourth on bottom. So in other words, it's like you have 3 apple on top and 4 apple on bottom. If you have to cancel them out, you will be left with 1 apple on the bottom. So it'll be like 1x on the top, on the bottom, right? 3x on top and 4x on the bottom. If you cancel them, you cancel 3, you'll be left with 1 on the bottom. So that's why we left with 1x on the bottom. And then the last one here is just gonna be that negative that goes out, and then there is nothing to cancel between the 11 and the 3 and the 9 because 11 is a prime number, so we keep that as is, and this will be the final answer. So remember, initially the person that worked on this set this to this one, which they marked it as incorrect because he did not break this fraction down. So the next one here, we have to find the quotient using long division. Let's do the long division here. X plus 2. Different people have different disposition, but it's the same process basically. So you can change the disposition however you want, but let's keep the process the same. So whatever term that we have here on the left side, we want to divide it by the term on the right side. So what we're gonna do here, we want to find a number that will multiply times x that will yield to x squared, to 8x squared. So that will be 8x, right? Because if you have 8x times x, it's gonna yield to 8x squared. So it's like those two x becomes x squared because it's multiplication, and we have the 8. So if we put 8x times x, it's 8x squared, but when we bring it to the other side here, we write it as negative 8x squared. That's just a rule. And then the same thing, now we have that 8x, now we multiply by the plus 2 here, it's gonna be equal to 16x. So when it comes here, it becomes negative 16x. Then this 2 goes away because 8x squared minus 8x squared goes to 0. And we have 19x minus 16x, that will yield to 3x. And the 6 comes down here. Now we want to find what is that number when we multiply by x will give us 3x. And the answer will be just 3, right? 3 times x will be 3x. So 3 times x, 3x, but when it comes to this side, it becomes negative 3x. And then the 3 here times 2, it equals to 6. When it comes here, we write it as negative 6. So 3x minus 3x goes to 0. 6 minus x goes to 0. So then this will be the final answer, 8x plus 3. Here they say to factor the 4-term polynomial by grouping. Have 4x to the third plus x squared plus 48 plus 12. So we're gonna group. We group the first two here, and then we group the last two terms. What can we factor out of the first group? We can factor x squared, right? Because it's like over here we have 3 bananas, and over here we have 2 bananas. It means that both people can at least put down 2 bananas, right? Because if they have to put 3, the other one won't have any the third banana to put. So hey, let's put 2 bananas, you put 2 bananas as well. So let's pull 2 bananas out. We'll be left with 4 and 1 banana. So 4x, and the other one will have pretty much nothing. It's just multiplication. We keep it as 1. We don't put it as 0, because if you put 0, that means that term goes away completely. If we have to redo it and multiply these, and here will be 0, then that term will die. So we don't leave a 0 there, we leave that as just 1. Okay, and then over here we have the 48x plus 12, and what we can pull out will be the 12, right? Because we have 48 is a multiple of 12, right? So if you do 48 divided by 12, you get a value of 4. So that means if I put 12 out here, I'll be left with 4x. Because if I do 12 times 4, right, 12 times 4x, it will still yield back to 48x. And then over here, I'll be left with 1. But if I do 12 times 1, you'll give me 12, which is a 12. We go back to the previous step. Okay, so this is how we factor. And after doing the factorization here, what do we see? We see that we have a term of 4x plus 1 here in terms of 4x plus 1. And then in the law of factorization, it says when we have such a thing, then we can just write that term, that expression here as a group. Then we multiply it by whatever values that are outside each of that parentheses. So in this case will be the x squared plus the 12. That will be the factorization of the expression that were given to us. Alright, next one here. Have x squared minus 11x plus 30. So we want to find the two numbers when combined together gives us negative 11, and then when they are multiplied it gives 30. Just gotta think about it, and for me it comes in my mind that it's negative 5 and negative 6, right? So negative 5 minus 6 gives negative 11, and negative 5 times negative 6, it gives 30. So by rewriting this still yields to negative 11x. Whatever the way you are rewriting your equation, it shouldn't change your equation completely. You should be able to still bring your equation back to the initial state. So rewriting your equation doesn't mean that you deform the equation to where you cannot bring it anymore to the initial state. Then you did something wrong. So from here, I'm still saying that despite rewriting my negative 11x as negative 5x minus 6, if I still have to combine both of them, it will still bring me back to negative 11x. So I'm good. So from there, I'm going to group these two values here. Do you see how I group them? Make sure, remember that -5, don't mess around with it too much, because if you don't handle it in the right way, you mishandle your expression here. So if I bring that -5 outside, then I have to put a negative in front of 30. That way I'm telling myself, if I have to multiply -1 times 6x, it'll give me -6x, which is this. And then -1 here, if I multiply by -30, then it will give me +30. So when you're pulling a negative out, it should change the sign of every term that is inside that parenthesis. Just something to keep in mind. Okay, from here, now we're gonna be pulling values out. So we have x squared here, we have x. So we can take out 1x, right? So then it would be x left here minus 5. And over there we can pull out 6. If we pull out 6, x will be left alone here. Now if we pull out 6 here, it will be 5 left alone, because 6 times 5 is 30. Again, we find ourselves in the scenario where we have x minus 5 and x minus 5. So we write x minus 5, and then we're going to write everything else that's remaining. So that will be the x, that will be the minus 6. So that's the factorization. Then from here, again, same thing, we have to factor. So we have 42 plus 27t plus 33t squared. And remember, they say factor out the greatest common factor first. So we see the greatest common factor here should be 3. So if I pull out the 3, I'll be left with 12 plus 9t plus t squared, right? Okay, and oops, here I fault. Let me make sure I put this in the calculator. I get 14 here, not 12. So make sure you use your calculator wisely here. With a small mistake like mine, it can be costly. Okay, yeah, so because you gotta double check, if you do 3 times this number, it should bring you back to 42. So 3 times 14, he'll give you 42. 3 times 9, it should give you the 27. And then 3 just times t squared, it should be just the 3t squared. And then from here again, we come back into the question, what two numbers, when you combine them, you get 9. And when you multiply them, you get 14. For me, I'm thinking of 7 and 2. So I'll do 7t plus 2t. You see that? Plus t squared. So I'm talking about these two here. 7t plus 2t still yield to 9t. So I haven't completely transformed my equation. It can still revert to the initial one. So from here, I can do again the grouping. 14 plus 7t as one group, and 2t plus t squared as a second group. From the first group, I can pull out 7. I'll be left with 2 plus t. The second group, I'll pull out a t. I'll be left with 2 plus t. Now we see 2 plus t and 2 plus t. So 2 plus t. So inside here, I'm left with the 7. I'm left with the plus t. And then don't forget, outside of everything, we had a 3. So that's just the final answer. And here they say to factor as well. So I have 4 x squared minus 17x plus 4. So what do we do here? It comes back again into this very same thing here, right? So to factor this, you want to rewrite this equation here, and then from rewriting it, you're telling yourself how to go after that. So over here, if I have to factor it, what do I get? I have to factor. I'll do the following: x squared minus, if I do 12 will be 5, so I can do 16 and 1. If I do 16x and 1x, so it's gonna be negative 16 minus 1, it gives back to still negative 7. Okay, and I put over here plus 4. So we're talking about this expression here still yields to negative 17x. Alright, from there we'll do the grouping once again. So 4x squared minus 16x plus, make sure the x is carrying that negative in front of it, and then from there we can pull out now the negative. Everything else change the sign inside when we do that. The first term we can pull out the 4x, we'll be left with x minus 4 minus x minus 4. We see x minus 4, we see x minus 4. It'll be x minus 4, and we write everything else. So it's going to be 4x. Over here will be just minus 1. We cannot just put minus nothing. It will be minus 1. Alright, over here we're factoring this expression. Again, the question comes, what two numbers when you combine you get negative 20, and when you multiply them you get positive 100. That one will be negative 10 and negative 10. So if we do negative 10 minus 10, we get negative 20. Negative 10 times negative 10, we get positive 100. So saying that this will still yield to negative 20x. Alright, again we do the regroup. X plus, you keep that negative in front of the 10x plus 100. Then you can pull it out. So you gotta handle it with care, then everything inside changes the sign. Remember that. And then from here we can refactor the x out, so we'll be left with 1x minus 10. And the second one we can factor out the 10, so I'll be left with x minus 10. Right. So then what I see here is x minus 10. And I write everything else that's remaining. We see that these two are the same, so we can just write it, this expression squared. Then over here, the last one, have x squared minus 4. We have a formula that says a squared minus b squared yields a minus b times a plus b. So with a being x, can we write this as this, right? Because 2 squared is equal to 4. That means that b is equal to 2. So we have a as x and b as 2. So then if we follow the equation, we say it's x minus 2 and x plus 2. So that's the practice final exam for the DMAT or developmental mathematics. If you understand all these questions, then you should be able to do really good in the final exam. Thank you very much and good